best form of defense is attack. Because I know this young lady is going to ask me for money. No, but firstly, thank you all for wonderful presentations. I'm very impressed, especially with projects in Indonesia. I've always said that from the Malaysian perspective, Indonesia has always been a great source of inspiration, at least for me. And I go to Bali very often. Having said that, I think one of the key themes that runs through the last three papers is actually about creativity in dealing not only with urban challenges, but actually with the ecological challenge. And my fear is that, I have got 206 projects in Georgetown, and none that really addresses the environment. And now that we've got the whole city sort of almost there, it's going to become Venice. So the question is, how does in the case of Bali, and which is I think quite different and distinct from the Kuala Lumpur and the Jakarta experience, how do you deal with the process of value-based planning? You said about voluntarism, forming partnerships, and then actually forming action, and that actually I believe is sustainability. How does that work does it only work in Bali because you have got a great tradition of that, and how does that translate and of course you can both jump in the case of a very highly urbanized modern, maybe like KL, a bit soulless city? Thanks.
Thank you. So this question applies to most of our presenters.
Thank you. Actually, this is very common when in a destination or places we have collection of rebel people or, people with the same spirit. So same with us there in Bali. This is not about our tradition, because modernism and mass tourism so strong. They change the people's mind in Bali. So we still have, and keep together the same spirit to over new things. Based on that, that's why we call it a process of design thinking, because we let them understand what is the big opportunity for us if we treat this project differently. That's actually the over. And the awareness is in how to make a protocol for this collaboration, the teamwork, who's doing what and what is the benefit for each of them. And all based on, based on contract and agreement. This is actually things like new things for us. And the process, of course, will never end. From one project to other project is very nice experience on how we do this better in the future. So maybe you can try also with the small groups in small project to demonstrating something for impact. Maybe Marco or she will add?
Would you like to add anything, Marco or she? A lesson from KL, Malaysia. Any?
Mike, please.
It's well, if I'm free to comment, I think yes, it is important to perhaps start some sort of ecological standards for your projects in Penang. There are many literature about it, and I think if you started it, it is a very good idea, but you will have to face a range of different ideas about what being green is. For example, a lot of people think that being green is really having a lot of trees, which is not true. I think for me, the very basic definition of being ecological is minimum usage of materials and energy in the process of building and in the process of using it. And of that minimum materials and energy, it should be maximum renewable. Or in one sentence, you could say that a minimum renewable use of materials and energy. But then you can divide the buildings into different sectors, so to speak. For example, the sanitation is important, where you can recycle the water or even harvest the rainwater from the roof and reuse it. Including wastewater, you can actually use it. And then used materials, as he used in the building. And then you can use also low entropic materials like bamboo. Bamboo is low entropic in the sense that you don't need a lot of energy to process it. You just cut it down and it grows very quickly. You need perhaps to preserve it with some natural ways, better than chemical waste. Don't use chemical waste. And then you can, from the very beginning, plan buildings not to use air condition. And then you will have to face some fake green ecological design who like to say that as long as you reduce the use of air condition, it is already better. But I don't think that should be the case. But then, but eventually be careful with a lot of traps. There are houses with claim to be green with using some used materials, but then you find out they use a lot of air conditioning. So that kind of fake ideas. But I think myself, I would think that trying to be green is also a kind of step-by-step process. You don't have to be fundamentalist in it, but you can try as much as possible for that. I think.
Okay,
It's
next.
possible to set up kind of standards for your project.
Okay, next question.
Question to Kun Gawin about policy and political environment. We heard quite a lot about the importance of funding and finance, and also about political will. Now, I think that seems to be something which seems to be missing a little bit. Looking in this room, and also about who is here and who isn't here, and in general about the availability of funding for particular sort of more contemporary art, or not just tied to traditional art kind of activities and festivals. This seems to be a void. It's a similar kind of question that I asked Vanessa, and I think she answered as being with the organization she answered it very well. But you, as being a Thai person, maybe you can answer it a little bit more directly on what you recommend to kind of, we've seen so many hooks about, creating new jobs, about, new opportunities and sustainability, all the things that the government is talking about. So how do we get the government find its way back to the creative economy and to creativity as a way to, solve the solutions that they say they're working on? And it seemed to me that they lost it a little bit in the last 2 to 5 years, sort of thing. You want to, as you can answer,
Thank you, Martin.
Feel as free and.
Very big question.
How should I say this? Well, first I have to tell you this. Creative economy policies in Thailand come directly with the political situation. And as the government changed, this creative economy policy have been changed as well. So to answer your question, I think one of the key things that we have to address on is you have to show the government that we are still committed to this creative economy, and the creative economy is still one of the paths that we can walk to achieve our new economic growth. We can't really rely on the traditional economy anymore. We are what we call the middle income trap. We have to find a new way to show the government that we have to go to this path in order to be in the first world country or whatsoever. I think the activities like this is one of the small steps that we can do to show the government. But I think we need more of this sort of activities going on. And not only in Chiang Mai, but also in Bangkok, in Phuket, or in other parts of the country. That there are a group of people that we are still committed to the creative economy and creativity, and we are willing to do this further as well. And I can't say that once we do this, and the government will directly give us the funding or change the policy towards the economy, the creative economy. But I think at least we how do I say this? We show that we are willing to work on it very hard, and hopefully they will see this.
If I may just add, I mean, for me, we seem to be thinking always about the national government. But actually, there's a lot of academics now, and there's a group of mayors. They're saying that mayors actually can change the world, or local government can change the world. Mayors can actually really do things that are a lot more tangible. And so maybe we need to move away and just sort of find the way to the local government more to do the kind of tangible things, and then that feeds back to the national government. And I think you all seem to be nodding, but there's something not quite happening in Thailand yet, I think, on this level. I mean, we can just leave that in the room, but unless you want to comment again. But isn't it true to, I saw you choose that, and Marco, so you were nodding when I said mayors can change the world, and local government, I saw, or was it about something else? But isn't that true? I mean, you know, we're all here sort of from cities and clusters, that there's a lot more literature about the importance of cities now. There's a lot more mayor forums these days, and unlocking creativity in the community for economic benefit or for sustainability. This seems to be what this, you know, compared to 10 years ago, there's a lot more of that understanding now. Do you agree with that? Sure, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. It's just that the quip that I was making to Marco is that in Malaysia, you still don't elect mayors, yet you appoint them. So I think it doesn't directly, but it does indirectly translate to a lack of accountability in terms of what you do and how much you spend during your term. And Marco was talking about.
No, I'm very skeptical about mayors can change the world because I think it's the people who change the world, even if they change it through the mayors that they elected. Remember that we elected the mayors. I happen to have actually translated a book by David Bornstein. I don't know if anybody knows about this book. The book is titled How to Change the World, The Power of Ideas and Social Entrepreneurship. So it's kind of the first book on entrepreneurship. And the book gives examples of about 20 individuals in the last 100 years or 150 years, and none of them are mayors. So you have, for example, Florence Nightingale. You know, Florence Nightingale actually not only changed the way we treat people in terms of nursing, but actually she changed the whole system of hospital. So basically the system of hospital is based on nursing principles introduced by Florence Nightingale. Just example. And then you have all over the world people, for example, in India, you have this guy who actually created and drafted the law on the rights of disabled. And then you have a woman who created a system of helping street children just by telephone, etc. Sorry, just not anti-mayors, but the fact is mayors are elected by people. So if you change the people, people change the mayor change the world, but still the credit should be to the people.
Sorry, Marco.
Disagree.
No, I don't disagree. I just think that for a book like that, you can also create a book where 20 mayors who change the world, right? I think it's a matter of like which perspective that you look at city making from. But I don't know. I kind of go back to the idea that everything is people. Whether it's policy also represents people. It's just that they sit at a certain place for a certain term and has certain responsibilities. So do creatives as well. It then comes down to how do you negotiate between the parties and the people.
Okay. Any question? We still have a few times. Yes, please.
Well, I enjoyed very much the talk about finding the creative solutions to solve the current mess that we are immersed on, producing more rubbish than 6 billion people every year, 6 billion weight of people every year. So we have the wisecracks on top in Davos, economic solutions, and we have the wisdom of the people down below. So how do we gather all this wisdom down below in local forums, in the villages, to empower them to find their own solutions? So this is the question. How do we motivate people to find out that it's better if they get together and cooperate to find the creative solutions for their own problems, and then push up to the legislations that will solve their problems, and upwards, mayors, wherever, provincials, etc., to really put the setup that will put these creative solutions into action. Thank you.
And the question to who would like to volunteer to answer this question? Please, Michael.
I volunteer because I have some involvement in this. For example, I was involved in the drafting of the last report by United Nations Environmental Program. It's called decoupling the growth of city from resource use and impact. Now, the one conclusion is that we need the role of intermediaries. So you're talking about how, actually there are two things to change at the same time. One is the behaviors of the individuals, but second, you need to change the system, because sometimes the system have us locked in it that we cannot change much. For example, if you individually manage or voluntarily reduce your garbage, solid waste, and also separate your solid waste, but then if the city does not have the system to kind of collect your separated garbage, and you are in trouble, or the whole world is in trouble. So that's why there is the need for this role of what is called now intermediaries. Intermediaries is basically the very basic role of NGOs, but sometime along the way it's got forgotten when NGOs themselves are locked into the system. So NGOs' role as intermediary is to bring up the changes from below or from above and meet in the middle to create a replicable, systematic change. So that's one of possible answers, but to do it in practical terms, it requires time, etc., etc.
Thank you.
I have another question here, which we're actually not at the end of the conference. We have tomorrow as well. And one thing we're doing tomorrow is in the afternoon, we're going to sit down amongst people that, tomorrow we have the Handmade-Chiangmai part, which is more about craft and design and furniture and creative craft tourism. But then in the afternoon, we will sit again together amongst the participants that are from the urban, from the creative cities and creative clusters to talk about next steps. So the questions here is, how can we cooperate, and when will we have the next forum? So we will probably, work on these answers, particularly the next forum tomorrow afternoon, and everybody is welcome to join. And equally, I don't know if it's clear, but we do have a dinner tonight at 6:30, and it's quite open. So if you are not being invited, but you would like to come, you're welcome to join the dinner. We still got about 5 to 10 spaces left, so plenty of, and we can expand. So but let me just ask this question a little bit now, which is about how could we, and this is to all of you who sort of are here in the circle. How can we cooperate more between the Asian creative cities? We can answer when we do the next forum, maybe tomorrow afternoon, but we can maybe already give some ideas now before we conclude on what could we do together. What could we do together? You got some ideas after today already? All the flights, yeah? Okay. Penang is going to be next? No, but what can we do together apart from circulating one from other projects?
Any short idea?
Any projects that we could do together, initiatives that we could connect our communities? We've got Vietnam, we've got Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, or is it just the end of a long day and we need to have the workshop? But, this is something that we really want to get to the bottom of it, not just to have a one-off forum and then leave it at that. How can we work together in different ways? And there's quite a lot, all of us have international partners as well, and international partners now say, just do it in one country. That's not what we want anymore. So, maybe we can also be smarter about how we work together vis-a-vis partners and so. Any comments on that? Cooperation opportunities, things that you've seen working? Come on.
Just short.
Martin, it's a really tough question.
We're also locally focused? No, we're not.
It's a tough question. I kind of feel that just being extremely sort of realistic is that partnerships can form, and we can always sort of prepare or like have platforms, Facebook, online groups, emails, but like the more valuable, meaningful partnerships tend to come through longer discussions. So I don't have immediate solutions, but I think the fact that people do meet, that means that the dots been connected. Whether it leads somewhere, it kind of takes time. It does.
I just want to explain what I mean with partnerships. Not necessarily that our mayors sign another MOU or so, but for example, to describe the partnership, so to speak, with Austin, right? I mean, there is no partnership with Austin, but Austin government official has come to Chiang Mai to one of the Creative Chiang Mai seminars, and spent a couple of days here and met with also different stakeholders. And then 10 of us went to the US, to different cities, and of course we went to Austin as well to visit him in the city government. Then somebody from Austin, somebody in Chiang Mai graduated, worked in Austin at Dell, and he really loved certain things that he's seen in Austin. I actually saw the music scene and the IT scene are certain things that resonated with what we are trying to build in Chiang Mai. We have a nascent IT sector, and we have a quite interesting music scene. So, and then we visited the University of Austin, and they have an incubator and technology transfer center, which is quite strong. And we are the science park. So we are sort of at 3-4 different levels, connections. We also invited somebody who's sort of bootstrapping guru in Austin, and he came to one of our entrepreneurship events. So I think it can be cooperation at these kind of levels, where as Marco has said, the individuals maybe more kind of push the projects rather than the institutions, but individuals connecting and then carry on projects. So maybe that's a thought to leave with, that we can, this is a group of individuals to perhaps start, and we can discuss that further tonight and tomorrow, and maybe we have a better answer for you, whoever posted these 2 questions after a little bit of wine or some spicy Thai food or so forth. So, Cham, shall we conclude? And we have a little bit of things still to do before we leave. Is it okay with you?
Yes, I think it's quite late now, and I would like to thank all the presenters, and if all of us can give them a round of applause, please.
Okay.